Hello everybody. I know things look a little different today. I'm sitting down. Frankly, it's because I was tired of standing, or in reality, I was hurt by Mr. Bubblish69, who called me an American-hating short rat with no life. Which really hurts me because today's my 20th birthday, and Republicans need to fact check that. Well, here's my birth certificate. Damn, they got me. Since today is the day I was born, I wanted to talk about how I got here. No, not that. My mom's watching and I wanted to live past 20. How my parents got here. Immigration. The dream to live long enough to tell your children the story about how you only had $5 in your pocket. Not 4, not 6, but just $5. The true goal behind the American dream. But since COVID has restricted much international travel, I wanted to talk about another immigration issue that Republicans are just so sympathetic for, and Democrats pushing to the side.
The security of our nation and our border is first and foremost the responsibility of our president. I came down here because I heard of the crisis. It's more than a crisis.
This is not just a big problem. This is a crisis at the border.
Exactly what is unfolding, the tragedy that is unfolding on the border, and we're here to do everything we can to shine a light on it.
Yeah, Ted Cruz, the guy who left his state while it was freezing to death, is saving the day at the border, which is just outstanding. Because when Trump's policies of separating families was all over the news, he went all Cancun on us and disappeared. Look, there is no surprise that the Republican Party is making this serious humanitarian crisis into a political game to take on Biden, even though they have absolutely no right to do so. Yet, right now, we have to understand that the nice guy, President Biden, is in office. And on the campaign trail, he promised a fair and humanitarian immigration overhaul, but has not executed this very well in his first 100 days. According to reports, there are 15,000 migrant children currently in U.S. government custody, including 5,000 who are stuck in the Border Patrol facilities, or the cages. Yet notice I said the word execute, because legislation is a long way ahead, especially with this Congress. So we're not going to talk about that. Instead of discussing our legal system, we wanted to understand why these children and families come here in the first place, despite Biden keeping Title 42, a Trump law which bars migrants from seeking asylum for the sake of the pandemic. The number of migrants at the border has increased dramatically since March, and in fact, the past decade. But why? What have us Americans been doing these past decades that may affect other people in other regions?
Thousands of migrants, as you know, are flocking to our southern border, many fleeing violence and poverty. But there are also thousands fleeing growing climate emergency.
When you focus on Central America, it's a great microcosm for how climate and national security and climate change and immigration are all related.
Yeah, it's breathtaking. I went and watched the first 25 minutes of the briefing this morning, and she used the word crisis, but not in relation to the border. She said we have a climate crisis on our hands. So we've got a climate crisis. We don't have a border crisis.
That scoff is the exact reason why we picked how climate change is related to the border surge. Because years ago, if we actually took the signs of climate change seriously, we may have actually understood its long-term effects. But first, I need to tell you what climate change is and its existence. But I'm gonna let my boy Bill Nye take this one.
By the end of this century, if emissions keep rising, the average temperature on Earth could go up another 4 to 8 degrees. What I'm saying is the planet's on fucking fire. There are a lot of things we could do to put it out. Are any of them free? No, of course not. Nothing's free, you idiots. Grow the fuck up. You're not children anymore. I didn't mind explaining photosynthesis to you when you were 12, but you're adults now, and this is an actual crisis. Got it? Safety glasses off, motherfuckers.
That was an outstanding yet childhood ruining clip all at the same time. Look, as we continue to debate reality, the average temperature in Central America has increased by 0.5 degrees Celsius since 1950 and is projected to rise by at least another degree before 2050. Climate change-related harsher/more frequent weather patterns like flooding, variable rainfall, hurricanes, droughts, and so much more are driving factors that force Central Americans to migrate to find better economic opportunity. Since many Central Americans live in poverty and agriculture, these effects could be dire to them. Honduras, for instance, is known for being a large hotspot of climate change, as it was one of the worst countries that was affected by it between 1993 and 2013. Climate-related hazards like hurricanes, tropical storms, flood, droughts, landslides devastate crops and critical infrastructure. More specifically, in 1998, Hurricane Mitch destroyed an estimated 70% of the country's crops and infrastructure, causing more than 10,000 deaths and $3 billion in damages, significantly setting back Honduras' development process. You can also look at Guatemala, where the crop loss by variable rainfall is devastating the subsistence farmers, majority of whom live in poverty. Finding El Salvador, it has seen a severe deforestation and land degradation that has negatively impacted their agricultural lands. Also, the country has seen an increase in extreme events in the last 30 years. From 2000 to 2009, there were 39 hurricanes in Central America compared to 15 in the 1980s and 9 in the 1990s. As a result of all these factors, migrants either have two options. One is to move internally, which in 2019, the IDMC calculated that weather-related disasters displaced more than 24 million people, almost 3 times more than those displaced by conflict in the same year. The second, and sometimes necessary but dangerous option, is to travel internationally, and especially to a place that offers hope for a better tomorrow.
Hubo mucha sequía, las milpas, la mazorquita es pequeña.
Among the farm workers who joined the caravan in Honduras was Pedro Castillo.
Siempre cuando sembramos vamos buscando tener la comida, arroz y frijol y maíz. De ahí mucha gente, así sobrevivimos. Hay mucha gente que sobrevivimos con menos de $1 a veces al día. Estamos asumidos a la pobreza y no porque seamos haraganes. A veces, bueno, digamos que con la madre naturaleza no se puede hacer nada.
These videos are just heartbreaking, but speak to the visual and economic challenges posed by climate change. By 2050, the World Bank estimates there will be 250 climate migrants, and 4 million of them will come from Central America. Interestingly enough, in addition to Mexico, a significant portion of the migrant population that comes to our southern border are from these Central American countries I mentioned earlier. However, when they get to our border, they're not legally allowed to claim asylum or be defined as refugees, because in UN International Refugee Law states that they have to be fear of persecution based on reasons of race, religion, nationality, membership, social political group, or political opinion. Yet, we admit that this is the part of the story where things get a little bit complicated, because some argue that we can't control what happens in other countries, especially their economic or political conditions. And what should we blame most, right? The weather, the economic state of the nation, the political violence, and even if the UN changes their definition, will we as a country accept those who are economically persecuted because of the weather? Or should we blame other reasons? In general, however, the US has given very little to international efforts to try and fix the source of this problem. This is something the Biden administration has proclaimed to be doing and focusing on. However, it should not distract them from their short-term goals that are on the border right now. But also, nobody has a right to scoff at the effects of climate change. And not just at the border, but so many of the other problems across this country. The unfortunate truth about all of this is that we don't understand the intersectionality and overlapping nature of climate change. We still treat climate change as something that we believe in. Greta Thunberg explains this the best.
It is the year 2021. The fact that we are still having this discussion, and even more that we are still subsidizing fossil fuels directly or indirectly using taxpayer money, is a disgrace. It is a clear proof that we have not understood the climate emergency at all.
Science is science. When we don't go beyond talking about its existence, we don't get to build on the science and create meaningful solutions. We don't debate gravity. Some people still think the Earth is flat, sure, but our policies aren't centered around that. Consequently, we can't see the climate change's overlapping effect with infrastructure, racism, and the border crisis. Nor can we understand its impact to the United States, especially when it comes to climate migration. For example, the US has internally displaced climate migrants. Think of the 1 million people who were displaced by Hurricane Katrina, or the 200,000 people who fled from the 2018 California wildfires, or from the hurricane that may be happening in Florida right now. I know it's spring, but it's Florida. We would literally fight a hurricane, so I'm not taking any chances. The consequence of not being climate-centric in our problems and solutions is that we devalue its research. Although the number of publications on migration and climate change has slowly gone up since 2000, the number of overall publications has decreased to 100 yearly since 2011. This is true despite the fact that there are so many underlying questions about climate migrants. Is there a specific gender equality for climate displacement? What do people on the ground actually need from us to help them? This is the only way things get worse. And this is especially true when the fact that we as a nation have dropped international aid to Central America and made it more difficult for refugees to enter by capping the amount. Although President Biden has created a commission to study migrants and is considering protections for them, we need to do better as a society understanding their problems and putting them at a platform. If we have the moral willingness to do so, of course. What should we do to help them, though? That is why we partnered up with Refugees International for this episode. By donating to them using this link or using the link in our bio would go a long way to create meaningful change on the border and for so many other lives. That focuses on hearing the stories of the families who take these horrific journeys after being displaced instead of building the wall to keep them out.